Yo, what's up, guys? Brandon B. Happy New Year to everyone. And so I was running across this article. It says 60% of millennials earning over 100,000 say that they're living paycheck to paycheck, and pretty surprising, considering that 100,000, I think in most circles, people would say at the bare minimum was solid, and maybe some would even be flabbergasted about if they woke up and started making 100,000 a year. You're certainly not LeBron James or Floyd Mayweather, nothing like that. I don't want to paint it like that, but 100,000 is not that bad. Depending on where you live in the country, obviously, can determine how far that dollar can go. You live in California or New York, it probably doesn't go as far as living in, let's say, Idaho or something like that, right? Uh, but this is pretty interesting. So it's a 60% of millennials raking in over 100,000 saying they're living paycheck to paycheck. Now, this survey has 28,000 Americans in this survey, right? Pretty solid amount of people, I would say. Okay. So it says it found that 54% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And that's surprising. I've actually read reports where it's even higher than that. Nearly 40% of high earners, those making more than 100,000 annually, said that they live that way. 40%. Okay. And so they're defining these type of millennials who are struggling this way as Henrys. This is an acronym for high earner, not rich yet, right? This acronym was invented in 2003, but it has come to characterize a certain group of 30 something six-figure earners. Okay. So it says they're struggling to balance spending and saving habits. Now, in the article, they said that this $100,000 salary just isn't what it used to be. The economy is a huge factor behind why six-figure earning millennials feel broke. Now, this is interesting because they do bring up some things. They're talking about let's this is a pretty good example. So it cited an example of a college educated 35-year-old earning more than 100,000 while juggling a mortgage, student loan debt, and a child, which could leave them with little savings for big purchases or unexpected emergencies, right? Now, that's pretty interesting. I think overall, if as you, I don't want to read this verbatim, but as you read this article, they're essentially saying that 100,000, which right here it says that means that a six-figure salary is no longer what it used to be in today's economy. In today's economy, 100,000 is considered middle class in the U.S. Now, I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this. I think it's pretty interesting because certainly 100,000 is not what it used to be in, let's say, 19 to 1970s, right? I was just actually watching an episode of Good Times. Good Times, the old sitcom 1970s, and on the show, the father on the show, James, he wins like $150, and he's going nuts. Now, today's time, $150 won't get you that far. You might be excited if you win something like that, but you won't go as crazy as he was going. Certainly didn't go that far. There was also an episode where he gets some type of raise, and it's like $4.25, and he's going nuts. He's telling his family, he's like, "Oh my gosh!" So it's certainly not what it was in the 1970s, but 100,000, I would say, is still nothing to sneeze at. Now, obviously, I think depending on your lifestyle, depending on what you're doing with it, it still doesn't mean too much. We've seen people make 10 times, maybe even 50 times what $100,000 is in terms of annual salary and still struggle. Now, they're saying while juggling a mortgage, student loan debt. Now, when you think about that, all right, now student loan debt. Now, this is coming from a guy that had $45,000 and $45,000 in student loan debt. You know, talking about me, I had $45,000 in student loan debt, so I understand the struggle with it, of what that can bring. Nonetheless, I think it requires we have to be more educated when we're making these decisions on what school we're going to go to. If I could have went back and done it differently, I certainly wouldn't have went to the school that I went to. Uh, and would have definitely moved a little bit different. Ain't even a little bit different, a complete 180, and probably would have graduated debt free. But that's just life. But $100,000, I would say you probably are very poor in your money management skills. This is no judgment. Just I would just say that that's objectively speaking. $100,000 and you have a mortgage. If you have, I don't know how much student loan debt. Let's say you have 100 $20,000 worth of student loans. You make $100,000 a year. If you have that much student loan debt, you probably shouldn't have a mortgage, right? So I don't want to get into the kid thing because I understand that can happen. But you probably shouldn't have a mortgage, right? You probably shouldn't. You probably should wait. And so this gets me into this question of, is there something, because we've been hearing it for the last few years in political circles. It's a big talking point. People talking about um, a living wage, right? And a lot of people have described this living wage as at least $15 an hour. Now we're talking about $100,000 a year. That's certainly past that. And if people are still struggling with that, then that would certainly mean that it's a little bit more than $15 an hour, or it's either one or two things. Either $100,000 is not a livable wage, or you just don't know how to live with $100,000. And I would say it's the latter. I would say that people just are struggling. You know, we have a consumer's economy. It's very big into trying to impress people. I know people who make one maybe 40%, right? So making about 40K to 50K, some 60, 70K a year, and they're not living paycheck to paycheck. And obviously, like I said, this varies from person to person, but you have to be in control of your life. You have to be in control of your money management skills. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that. And so this right here goes to show you folks that if you're making 100,000 a year and you're still struggling, I'm sorry, but that is a solid income. Like I said, you're not the richest person on the planet, but 100,000 is not too bad. Particularly, like I said, if you're by yourself, you're single or something like that. But a lot of these wounds, self-inflicted, student loan debt, mortgage payment, self-inflicted. And so you want to make sure that you can control yourself. You're not entitled. A living wage is not. It doesn't, in my personal opinion, does not mean you're entitled to travel as much as you want, drink as much as you want, do anything that you want in terms of just reckless behavior, unless you can afford it. If you can afford to do those things and travel a few times a month, yeah, then be my guest. Do what you want. But if you can't do it, that's no shame in that either. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I definitely want to encourage people to make sure that they're budgeting, making sure that they're taking uh, control over their finances, because I think this is a very important thing that is just simply not talked about enough, that it just doesn't matter. I mean, we just passed Christmas, and I know a lot of people have probably went into some type of consumer debt trying to get their kids gifts. Listen, guys, it's simply just not worth it. This is coming from someone with a kid. I love my son so much, but I'm not going in debt to buy him Optimus Prime. Uh, Certainly not worth it, and I think he still will love his dad regardless. So I do want to say this: Happy New Year to everyone. Let's get this year started right, and let's go dominate the year. And make sure that you like, share, subscribe to this video. More on the way. Appreciate you.